Last night, I watched the entirety of the Barbie movie. Yes, I did. And thank you for your condolences in the comments in advance. I appreciate your sympathy for the pain I had to endure. And yes, it is that bad of a film. I'm going to just spoil that about the review right away. People are, of course, hailing this across the internet, and it is a political tribe kind of thing. I really think that most of the people who are doing so to just troll and go out there and go, oh, yeah, you're just a man, huh? Just like what the movie was about, which is exactly what the movie was about. So Barbie opens up with a scene which is actually a little girl playing with a baby doll, and in an allegory for abortion and training women to abort their babies to be happy, she destroys the little baby doll and looks up at Margot Robbie, who's this beautiful, wonderful, thin, perfect physique, and she wants that out of her life. That she's going to become a career woman who doesn't care about such things. It is a beautiful, beautiful thing, according to these people. So it's a pro baby killing movie immediately out the gate, and of course that's going to be lost on a lot of people. I'm going to give a little credit to the filmmakers here. They do a lot of this kind of thing where they just kind of like rush through certain dialogue or just kind of like weave some stuff in there about trans, man-hating, homosexuality, and all that. And it's so quick. I think a lot of the normie audiences who are, conditioned towards overt sort of things are going to miss a lot of the just terrible messaging throughout this entire film. But unfortunately, this is aimed at little girls. I know I'm going to get it's a PG-13 movie, but let's be honest. I know everybody I know who's going to see this as an adult is taking their little 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old daughter to see this. And unfortunately, this is definitely not a movie for kids. That's about the first thing you should learn about this. It is just riddled with degeneracy across the board that little kids should not be faced with. And that is what our society is facing right now, unfortunately. So it comes back to Barbie Land. It's this fake plastic little land where everybody's happy. And immediately it gets very weird right in the middle of it, where Barbie's she pauses all the festivities and fun and goes, do you ever think about death? And this gets into what Hollywood has become into these days. Hollywood is a death cult. They worship death. Of course, it starts with abortion and the womb and all that. And it gets crazy as this entire movie, she just keeps coming back to that, talking about death, talking about dying. And it's wow, this is not what you expect out of a fun Barbie movie. Now you expect some silly hijinks, maybe some caper, some sort of having to save Barbie Land as it's crumbling from the outside or something like that. And that's kind of the plot of this, but she's connected to some outside woman or girl. She thought it was a girl at first, but it turns out it's an adult woman who's connected with her Barbie, which is very bizarre by itself. And then she's having her own Barbie doubts and problems because of that, and she's running the risk of going crazy as herself. It really is not a full impact threat to the Barbie land in general, and she's not actually accomplishing anything. And that's the whole sort of take of this film. They really don't accomplish anything, and so it's very bizarre. It's about finding yourself, being who you are, which is an allegory for, of course, homosexuality and trans things that they're trying to push throughout this entire film. And Ken starts this entire film by just being a complete simp, and he actually remains a simp through the entire film. And he is obsessed with Barbie. She kind of just views him as a friend and wants him to just accept that no means no. It's a very just automatic feminist sort of thing where it's we have all the power with our sexuality and you guys are just disgusting and you're just people for us to use. And that's exactly how Barbie treats him throughout the film. And it actually she gets rewarded for it. And she actually straight up confronts him about that at the end. And it's really just an anti-man sort of whole setup across the entire film. There's a bunch of different Kens. There's Asian one, black one, of course, all the way down the line. All of them are just kind of stupid or homosexual or just both across the entire movie. They actually get into a Mattel corporate board at some point, and they're all just stupid idiots, led by Will Ferrell, who acts like his character in Elf but older. In this movie, it's just a bizarre thing. But every man is inept. Every man can't accomplish anything. The woman who is the real world person of course, is a Latina representation. And they do this in every movie now, too. They're really trying to push that Latina representation thing in a very shallow way. So she's Latina, and they say a few Spanish words across the movie just to like give that wink to the audience. And you know, I watched this with, you know, I'm a Hispanic guy myself, and I've got a bunch of course, Latina and Latino friends, and I watched it with with one, and they roll their eyes at this from Hollywood. They go, they just throw a couple words in there, and it's like it's not even really our culture. It's like a white person's attempt at pushing Latina culture. So Barbie's having this existential crisis, which again, there's a kids movie, and there's like an existential crisis about death. It's ridiculous. Ken is simping. There's a lot of overt sexual jokes in this, which are just like, whoa, it does have a PG-13 rating. But again, this is aimed and targeted at kids at the end of the day. And so they make a lot of that. The Kens make a big joke, which is in the previews, the beach off, where it's obviously talking about them, you know, having homosexual relationships with each other. It's unbelievable. There's a Dr. Barbie in this who is an overt trans person who looks, you know, kind of masculine, has a deeper masculine voice, and yet is at some point Ken looks like he's actually about to kiss him, and tells him how beautiful he is. In the movie as well. It's just ridden with agenda throughout the entire thing, guys. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I know they're gonna say this movie's not for you. It's for people who are not going to pay attention or notice anything because they've been so brainwashed. So Barbie goes out into the real world. She tries to find this who she thinks is a teenage girl, and it actually is her mother. Her mother's complains about how hard it is to be a woman. You know, you have to be pretty all the time, but not so pretty that other women think of you as a threat. You know, and she gives this whole rant about like what it means to be a woman and how hard it is and difficult it is. And it's like, well, meanwhile, the men are just getting trampled upon in the entire movie. Ken is trying to find, quote, patriarchy. And yes, they say patriarchy over 10 times in the film. And Ken is looking for this like man-controlled world. They say that the men control the real world multiple times in the movie. And of course, that makes things bad. When Ken goes in and tries to bring the men's real world things into Barbie land, it's all faux stupid things and like, you know, bring me a beer, Barbie. It's that kind of thing, which again is like adult themed. And teaching little girls that like men are just these like guys who just, you know, want you to bring them a beer or something like that is very dangerous for society and not a good message at all. Of course, that fails, and Barbie and her other Barbies remember that they're Supreme Court justices and Nobel Prize winners and doctors and amazing people, and they save the day from the Kens who are just have no talent whatsoever. Ken throughout the movie just says, "All I know is beach." Over and over again, and that's all he is. He just simps for her, and he knows nothing, and he has no credentials. But all the women are much smarter than him and much better than him throughout the entire movie. It's a complete man-hating movie. So we have that sort of speech from the real-life woman about how hard it is to be a woman all the time. And look, I mean, it's just like an agenda-ridden movie throughout the entire thing. It's very difficult to watch because of that. Now, there's multiple points in here where Barbie and Ken, of course, talk about how they don't have genitalia. They actually say it, he goes, "I don't have a penis. I don't have a vagina." So they do that kind of thing. Again, this is, not good for little kids. And that is more reference, again, as they're going into like the real world and reference to trans culture and all that. And at the very end of it, Barbie ends up going to a gynecologist, showing that if you don't have a vagina, you can end up, quote, having a vagina and go to a gynecologist if you just feel who you really are. And that ends up being the theme of the movie. Who are you really? You get to define who you are. If you want to say you're a human even though you're not, you totally get to do that. If you want to say you're a man even though you're a woman, you totally get to do that. And that's what it's about at the end of the day. And of course, they can't even have a relationship. I mean, Barbie and Ken is supposed to be a like boyfriend-girlfriend situation, but they can't show a heterosexual happy relationship in a Hollywood film these days. So Ken gets completely emasculated. She completely turns him down and tells him to go away by the end of the movie. It's really sad on that level. So again, watching this with a traditional Hispanic woman, she was surprised by that. And she said, I always viewed Ken as like a very masculine thing when I was a little girl. And so this is quite the opposite. So while Barbie is shown to be like this perfect, wonderful person who's like really thoughtful, really feeling, and really caring, Ken is quite the opposite. He's just this moron who just like is holding her down the entire movie. Now, to get to the sets and the construction and all that, I mean, it looks a little cheaply made at the end of the day. Everything does have that kind of plastic feel to it, but that fits with Barbie, so I don't mind that so much. Um, but you know, when they get into the real world, it's just, you know, easy. There's really no effects to it and all that. And so the sets, designs, and all that are pretty good. The storyline's a little long. I mean, it's about an hour and 50 minutes long. And again, like nothing really happens. Barbie just finds who she really is, and it doesn't really impact anybody else. And Ken like is like mulling who he really is, and it doesn't really impact anybody else. And so they don't really accomplish anything throughout this entire movie. Nothing's really resolved other than like you can be whoever you want to be messaging, which is of course the Hollywood pushing the trans culture on little kids over and over again. The acting is a bit over the top. I mean, you can tell they're just being snarky throughout the entire movie. And that attitude grates on you after about, 20 minutes of it. It's pretty funny for like, I'd say 10, 15 minutes. But that snark attitude over and over and over again for this long is a lot. So I'd liken this to like Elf, but less funny in terms of combined with like Pee-wee's Playhouse, combined with rampant feminism and Hollywood woke ideology. And that's what the movie is at the end of the day. Margot Robbie, of course, looks beautiful. You can't do anything about that. And that's about the entire movie right there. Ryan Gosling really put a lot into his simping sort of attitude. Like, I mean, really a lot of, the most annoying part of it, when Ken wanted to, find himself, become more masculine, he determined his favorite song is that Matchbox 20 song, I Want to Push You Around, and I will, and they keep singing that over and over again. So that's their point of men, is that's all men do, is try to push people around. Again, man-hating film, pro-trans film, pro-homosexual film, pro-abortion film, and this is exactly what we've gotten out of this kids property, which should have just been a fun movie. So I think they were trying to make a modern-day Pee-wee's Adventure kind of thing. It's just they failed on every single level because it just didn't have any fun factor to it. All right. So this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen, ever. And definitely do not take your kids to this. That is the takeaway from this. And that is the review. Leave a comment down below with what you think about this. Hit that like and subscribe button. We'll be back soon.